Are looking for a mobile wallet to hold and access your crypto assets, you need to go to argent.xyz and download the Argent Smart Contract Wallet onto your Android or iOS device. Argent is one of the most secure ways to hold your crypto assets on your mobile device while still being able to access all the DeFi products and services that we know and love. Argent has enabled one-tap access to all the DeFi applications that we all use the most, and recently onboarded into the Argent app is the YEARN vaults. You can now access yield from a specific vault from YEARN, and then YEARN handles the rest. Also new to Argent is Balancer and being able to supply liquidity to Balancer pools and also receive BAL rewards for doing so, all from your Argent wallet. One of Argent's newest features is the ability to route trades and swaps through the various liquidity pools in the ecosystem, ensuring that you always receive the best rates when you trade inside of Argent. Argent has done a ton of effort into making sure that your assets are as safe as possible. They have social recovery options with their Guardians feature, making sure that any trusted friend or family member can restore your access back to your Argent wallet if you were to ever lose or break your phone. And there's also some simple account features such as sending limits and whitelisted accounts, making sure that your money doesn't ever do anything that you don't explicitly approve. In order to see the Argent wallet in action, go to argent.link/bankless and download the app. We're also brought to you by MONOLITH. MONOLITH is your cool new DeFi account, your DeFi savings account, your DeFi checking account. Except the cool thing about the MONOLITH DeFi account is that it gets software updates, right? You actually get to increase the usefulness of this over time. So here are some of the features. MONOLITH is a smart contract wallet with a lot of the features that you would expect if you've come to know DeFi and what it is. You can add money to it. You can put that money to work in Compound and accessing yield. But you can also swap through Uniswap. What was cool with MONOLITH is that they will send you a very sexy MONOLITH Visa card that connects to your MONOLITH smart contract wallet on Ethereum. So it's a really awesome tool to live a bankless life with a savings account that gets software updates. So this is something that you're never going to find out in the real world, but you can still do real world things with real money, like buy your groceries. So that's just fantastic. Coming soon to MONOLITH, actually already here to MONOLITH, is now you can buy DAI and get it sent to your wallet directly, right? So it's also being an on-ramp. So you don't have to go through your centralized exchange like Coinbase or Gemini or wherever. You can just go straight from your bank account right into your MONOLITH checking account smart contract wallet. So check them out at monolith.xyz. What up, Bankless Nation? We are here with Anthony Cesano. Anthony needs no introduction. However, I will do that anyways. Anthony is one of the few people who, in addition to Eric Connor, I consider Ethereum's unofficial community manager. Anthony does a really good job being a steward of information around Ethereum, one of the co-founders of EthHub, and the project that we are introducing today, the Daily Gwei. Anthony, welcome to the nation.
Hey, David, thank you for that very nice introduction and those very kind words. Great to be here. Excited to talk about, everything I'm doing and maybe some other things later on as well.
Yeah, let's dive right in. Why does the world need the Daily Gwei?
Oh, well, that's a good question. If we take it back to first principles, what the Daily Gwei is basically an education platform. So started as a newsletter where I kind of write every day about Ethereum, about the biggest things happening in Ethereum, with the goal to basically teach, people at least one thing new about Ethereum every day. And that's kind of like been my overarching goal with that. And then recently I launched kind of an ecosystem around the Daily Gwei, where I'm doing a YouTube kind of channel where I do daily updates on Ethereum, like what's happened during the day, to make sure people are educated there and to give them context around things that are happening. Because what I noticed is that a lot of things happen, people tweet about it, right? But unless you're like super in the weeds, it's very hard to get context around why it's important, why you should be excited about it, and how you should feel about it, basically. So that's kind of what I've done there. And I also plan to do more, educational materials for not so much the people that are hardcore Ethereum, but like the newer people, because I think as we're going into kind of this bull market, we're going to get tons of new people coming in, and I want to make sure they have the right information in front of them, because there's a lot of bad information out there, unfortunately. That's just the nature of the space. So that's kind of what my aim is with the YouTube channel there.
Yeah, it's good. Coming into the world of crypto is, to use a metaphor that's very favorable in the crypto world, a dark forest, right? There's no path, right? There's no crypto university. There are barely any like crypto classes that people take. There's no like academic path. Like this is how you learn about this. It's always like it's every man for himself when it comes to learning about crypto. And that's what makes it so hard. A, there's like so much to learn about, and B, like finding the right sources in crypto to learn about crypto is extremely difficult because you don't know how to vet sources at the when you are just getting into the world of crypto. And so like what we do at Bankless and what I see you doing at the Daily Gwei is like we like trying to be like a teacher. Like we are leading a classroom, except the classroom is like, you know, your YouTube or your newsletter. So talk about the importance of just capturing the attention of people coming into the space and why it's beneficial if like they land on something like, you know, the Daily Gwei versus some like, you know, Pumpamental's YouTube channel.
Yeah. So I think it's extremely important that people don't fall into the wrong kind of echo chambers, right? And it's very easy to, because as you said, there's no defined path, right? There's no one telling you, like, you know, in real life, you go to primary school, you go to secondary school, you go to college, university, whatever, then you go get a job, right? That's like a defined path. And you know that from when you're a little kid, basically. Whereas with crypto, you could come in various different ways, right? You can get started on Reddit, you can get started on Twitter, you can get started on YouTube, you know, wherever you get your first kind of sense, right? You know, imagine you've just heard about Ethereum, you type into Google, what is Ethereum? And you come up with all these different things and you go searching and then you slowly, you know, learn more and more, but it depends on what sources you're learning from. So, you know, unfortunately, a lot of the stuff on YouTube is kind of that like pumpy, you know, shilly stuff where people like to pump some coins and things like that, which, you know, I mean, there might be a need for that and people enjoy watching that, but I think a lot of it is unfortunately not great from an education perspective. And it maybe puts people into the wrong mindset of like, this is just a casino where you
Mhm.
gamble and none of the tech matters or whatever. So, you know, the counterbalance to that is stuff like, you know, Bankless, the Daily Gwei, EthHub, you know, DeFi Dad does a lot of really cool DeFi tutorials and on Yield TV as well. So, you know, we kind of need that counterbalance, or else people are just gonna go and kind of watch these things and then get a wrong impression. Like especially because, you know, I mean, we all know that there's cohorts of people out there who love to spread misinformation about various projects to benefit their own agenda. So, you know, we need to kind of counterbalance that with great information, with accurate information. And that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, that's what you and Ryan are trying to do, right? And that's what, you know, I think a lot of the people in the Ethereum ecosystem in the weeds are trying to do. But unfortunately, you know, our reach can sometimes not be as grand as these other people. So we're, you know, I'm just trying to grow the, I guess, the pie and grow the reach there.
Yeah, if you go to YouTube and type in like what is Ethereum, the list of accounts that show up or like videos that show up is like if you are somebody who's interested in the success of Ethereum, you don't like that list of videos. Like the videos that come up first are need to be replaced. And one thing I'm really bullish on in 2020 is Ethereum media. Back in 2017, we didn't have Ethereum media. There was no Ethereum media. There was no one producing content specifically about Ethereum and the Ethereum ecosystem. So this is going to be like the first bull run where there's actually people like you putting out YouTube content, putting out newsletter content that's actually producing media content that isn't just like, you know, watching the charts and just like, is this coin going to pump? Here's some news that's going to pump this coin, like blah, blah, blah. Like it's really legitimizing that Ethereum media is here. And it's also, I think, going to be further legitimizing when a bunch of new people come into the space. So Anthony, let's talk about like, what kind of content do you think that you are going to like focus in on or specialize in on that you are doing with your Daily Gwei refuels, which I'm thoroughly enjoying, by the way. Like what could people expect to hear from the Daily Gwei?
Yeah, so I guess we were talking about this a little bit off air, kind of like the plans for the channel. I think the Daily Gwei refuels were easy to start with because, you know, it's just kind of me saving some things to talk about during the day and then recording myself talking to them because I already have all the context and knowledge around it that I can put out there. But I do want to extend past that. I want to do kind of more I guess you call them structured educational videos, where I go from like first principles, go from like 0 basically, and get this person up to like 1, right? So they go from like not understanding a particular subject at all to having like a really great understanding of it towards the end of the video. That's actually really hard to do, right? Because, you know, I've been trying and making scripts and slide decks for it and everything. And, you know, I put content on there just from like my brain. And then I look back on it and I'm like, wow, I need to actually explain all of this stuff first before I get to this point. And that's another issue with, I think, with new people coming into this ecosystem, is that it can be very complex. And the people that are the smartest within the ecosystem and that have the most knowledge, it can be hard for them to kind of like go back to first principles as well, because the space moves so fast. You know, unless you're keeping up with it every day, you know, you can get left behind. So I'm trying really hard to make sure that the educational content that I put out there is easy for like a brand new person to understand, right? And then also for them to kind of like, you know, increase their knowledge on their own too, without me having to kind of hold their hand, but having that framework to work from. Like, I don't want them, you know, I mean, you mentioned it, like when you search what is Ethereum on YouTube, you get these old videos that basically describe Ethereum as it was like maybe a couple of years ago. And you don't even hear about things like DeFi, right? The main use case for Ethereum. So I want to kind of make videos that are kind of not timeless, but like don't age as horribly as these other ones have. And, you know, those people who made these videos, they weren't ill-intentioned or anything. But the problem is that because the space moves so fast, you know, that's just like old information now.
Absolutely, and I see the content that is coming out of the Daily Gwei. Here's how I have it like modeled out mentally. So correct me if I'm wrong, but like I kind of think of it as like a barbell type of content, where like you're going to make some really easy beginners type content, but then you also have your daily refuels. And if to use an analogy of like learning a language, this is like, you know, Spanish 101, like donde está la biblioteca. And then the daily refuels are like fluent Spanish, where you just like throw someone into the middle of it. You don't give any explanation because there's no time for that. But like that's like the 401 level content. And like to some degree, the only way to learn about crypto is to take the really complicated stuff and like slam your head against it like a bunch of times, right? And so like I feel like, you know, having a bunch of beginners content where like you hold their hand, and then you have like this fluent, like, here's what happened in the ecosystem, here's what happened today, here's like all the things that like are important, vetted by Anthony, you know, like, you know, curated by Anthony. And then you kind of can go back and forth between those two things and bounce back between these two ends of the barbell to bring someone into like, you know, a quote unquote like university level understanding of crypto.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, every individual is different, right? Some people learn like that, like getting blasted with information and then picking it apart on their own and going and researching further. I'm personally one of those learners, right? I mean, you know, that's how I basically came into Ethereum, you know, especially, you know, in when I discovered it in early 2017. As you said, there was none of this media. There was nowhere really to start. You were just thrown into like a million blog posts that you had to read, right? And there, you know, it wasn't just like the content from 2017, but also the older content to get context around things. So there's those types of people. There's other people who want to just basically their hand to be held through the whole thing, which I think is fine, and that's a fine way to learn. But those people are definitely the ones that I want to try and capture, because as you mentioned, the Daily Gwei refuel fills that hole for people who are just like want to be blasted with all this information with no context, just like, you know, a stream of consciousness basically from me. Whereas I want to appeal to those people who want their, you know, to go from like Spanish 101 to 401, you know, and all the steps to get there, not just having to go into the deep end sort of thing.
Yeah. So in addition to the YouTube channel, what else is the Daily Gwei? Because it's an ecosystem, right? It's not just a YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, as I mentioned, we have the daily newsletter, which again is for people that are kind of like in the weeds as well. It's not a beginner's thing. I try to keep it like higher level and not go too technical with it, but it's definitely going to appeal more to people that are already in the ecosystem. There's also a Discord channel where, you know, you can jump in there and you can ask questions to people. You know, you can ask me questions and I'll try my best to explain it as well. Because I think having that one-on-one support or that one-to-many support within the community is extremely important. especially, in Discord or something where we have different channels for different topics. So, conversations don't get lost and you can get help from people. Because the best thing that the Ethereum community, that Ethereum has is the community, right? There are so many helpful people that will give you the answer, will link you to the right places, and as long as there's content exists for that, they'll do it. And if there's no content, they'll just create it themselves, right? And they'll explain it in their own words. So yeah, those are like the two main things. Well, the three main things. Sorry, the Discord, the YouTube, and the daily newsletter. There's also a Twitter account, but that just serves as a purpose to like amplify the messages as well. And yeah, I mean, I'm also doing similar things with EthHub, right? Where we have the documentation section of EthHub that's got a bunch of beginner stuff on there as well. The weekly podcast with Eric, where we basically recap the week as well there. So it's always good to get Eric's context on things as well. Like bouncing off another person is always great. Yeah, so there's a fair bit going on, but as I said, I think a lot of it's right now is focused on the people already in Ethereum. I really want to get the newbies, and I really want to teach them how to get involved, how to get to that point.
Yeah, and there's definitely an advantage to having a network of media teams like EthHub, Bankless, Daily Gwei, because like the chance that a noob finds one of us is good, decent, just at least one of us, and then we can just shill the rest of us, right? There's going to be like a network of just like Ethereum media that's like, here are the other trusted like news sources that you guys should go to. And Anthony, I think we should go all the way back until like, not all the way back, but like back into the bear market of like 2018 and 2019, because this is where like you and I got close together. This is where like we started to like sharpen our messages about Ethereum. This is where like a lot of some of the ideas about Ethereum and Ether that we are now finally seeing bubble up to the surface. Like a lot of those original ideas came out of the bear market, right? Like ETH wasn't money in 2017. Like that wasn't really a conversation that we had. Like we didn't have, conversations about Ether as a bond or as a triple point asset or as Ethereum as like a native economy. Let's talk about like your perceptions as to like how these conversations, why it's so super important to have these conversations, and then like why it's also important for Ethereum media to exist to get these messages like up to the surface. Explain that thought process and your thoughts around it.
Yeah. So for those who weren't around in the earlier days,
if you want to live a bankless life, you need to get a hardware wallet. There is no alternative for storing your crypto in a self-sovereign fashion. That's why I have 4 ledgers that I use to manage my different crypto assets using the Ledger Live account as well. Ledger Live is like your home base for managing your Ethereum, DeFi, and crypto accounts. It does a really good job of aggregating all of your different Ethereum wallets if you are the type of person that uses more than one. But you can also add other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Cosmos or whatever your preferred blockchain is. And then it will display an aggregate portfolio of all your accounts at the main page. One thing that Ledger is doing a really good job of is enabling all the money verbs that me and Ryan talk about with the Bankless Skill Cube enabled in the Ledger Live app. So right now in the Ledger Live app, you can buy, sell, lend, swap, and stake your crypto assets, which is doing a really good job of fulfilling all of the money verbs in the Bankless Skill Cube. Something that's new to Ledger Live is Ledger Swap, where you can swap assets one for another directly inside the Ledger Live application, ensuring trustlessness in your financial activity on Ethereum and on Bitcoin. If you want to learn more about what you can do with a ledger, go to the blog post, The Power of Ledger Live on the Ledger website, where they share some of the more advanced things that you can do with your ledger that you might not have known about. There's a link in the show notes that will take you to the Ledger shop where you can get your preferred Ledger hardware wallet. I personally like the Ledger Nano X, but I also have both. They're both great options. When you own a ledger, you own your own assets in the way that they have been designed to be held by the user and the user alone. So go get your ledger today to make sure that you are as self-sovereign as possible. The Bankless State of the Nations are brought to you by YEARN. YEARN is DeFi's first self-building community-run project, which I just get really, really excited about. YEARN is a system that seeks out yield in DeFi, and it does that in a number of different ways. A very aggressive way is with the vaults, where you can deposit your preferred asset of choice, and different DeFi experts will come in and generate a strategy for what to do with your deposited token, right? And so it'll go find ways to get yield in that deposited token in DeFi. For those who want to just earn yield on their stablecoins, the Earn system is for you, where you can deposit your preferred stablecoin and YEARN will go and figure out which money market on DeFi and DeFi is producing the best interest rate, whether it's DYDX, it's Compound, or Aave. It looks around DeFi to see where the yield is coming from, and it directs stablecoins automatically so you don't have to. Check them out at yearn.finance to get started, and also check out the stats page to see what other people are doing.
So for those who weren't around in the earlier days, in 2017 and things like that, ETH as a financial asset was not a conversation at all, basically. The narrative around ETH was that it was used for gas and it would never accrue any value, right? And then we obviously saw what happened during 2017 with the huge run up in ETH. And again, but that was mostly driven by ICOs, right? People still weren't bought into this narrative that ETH could be anything but like a payment, not a payment token, like a token to pay for gas.
Transactional token.
Transactional token. So, you know, whereas you had Bitcoin on the other end, where everyone was kind of bought into this idea that, well, most people, that Bitcoin was like this store of value digital gold thing. And that wasn't in the conversation for ETH. You mentioned that and you were laughed out of the room, basically. And then obviously after 2017, we had the bear market in 18 and 19, where these narratives started to kind of bubble up, right? Because the only people that were left in 2018 and 2019 were the hardcore Ethereum believers, right? And obviously those people had, you know, a lot of ETH and wanted that ETH to appreciate. So, you know, how do we position ETH as like a financial asset? How do we describe to people that ETH is more than just being paid for fees and things like that? And, you know, I think a lot of people in that space has played a huge part. Like, I think that yourself and Ryan, myself, Eric, like, you know, a bunch of us, we played like a pivotal part in basically setting the narratives around it. And, you know, it's come to the point now where you have ETH being viewed as this financial asset on par with Bitcoin. You know, there's that meme of like blue chip cryptos, you know, and that's what it is, right? Whenever someone mentions BTC, they mention ETH as well now, right? There are traditional finance folks who say, I'm allocating, you know, 80% to Bitcoin, 20% to ETH. You know, yes, it's still heavy Bitcoin, but that would have been negative or like 0%, right? That wouldn't even been in their mind space back in 2017 and before that. So the fact that those narratives that were set in 2018 and 2019 have bubbled up now and are actually part of the mainstream consciousness, and not just within crypto, but outside of crypto, is a huge achievement, I think. And that's probably the thing that I'm most proud of out of the bear market. Like, I stuck around, I put out all this content, I did all this stuff. The thing I'm most proud of is basically positioning ETH as, you know, being part of the team, or no, it's not really a team, but like the cohort of people who pushed ETH forward as an asset.
Yeah, the if you actually put a team label on it, the Bitcoiners are gonna come. It's like, I knew there was a team behind this. No, it was like you, me, Eric Connor, Ryan Sean Adams, like DC Investor, you know, all amplification from Anti-Pro. But it was like the 2018, 2019 bear market Twitter accounts, like with which, like, when we were bored because there was nothing to talk about, we would make Twitter threads about how like ETH is money from like 1,000 different perspectives. And like at that time, like, we didn't know if we were even right or not. It just like made sense to us, and like we had some like fundamental arguments about why it was true, but it never actually, like, we didn't really have significant proof until now. Like, now we have proof that like DeFi collateral is primarily Ether. Now we have proof that like Ether's like nativeness to Ethereum makes it such a privileged and pristine asset inside of DeFi. Now there's actually staking, right? And like now, even though like previously, like staking wasn't a thing, like collateral in DeFi was kind of a curiosity, not really a big metric. And then like the EIP 1559 wasn't even a thing until like 2019, right? And so like it used to be just this absence of community, absence of messaging. And that's where I think like the role of Ethereum media really plays into it, because Ethereum media, I think, was born in 2018, like especially with you and your Twitter activities and your Twitter leadership, and you know, Eric and Ryan's as well. Like that's where, you know, the Daily Gwei was formed. Like that was the crucible of 2018 formed a lot of these efforts. And like the fact that like the Mizari is like, starting to beat the same drum that we were beating like 2 years ago. I think it just proves out the point of like why Ethereum media is important. And so the point I'm trying to get to, the point for the listeners is you should go subscribe to the Daily Gwei YouTube, because like the heart and soul of Ethereum is coming out of the Daily Gwei, right? And so like there's a responsibility in promoting Ethereum media companies that promote like the heart of Ethereum, right? The ethos of Ethereum. And, I'm pretty confident that Anthony, what the words about Ethereum that come out of Ethereum's, the words about Ethereum that come out of Anthony's mouths are actually spoken from Ethereum, the protocol itself, in some weird mythological way.
That's a fun way to put it. And I think just going back to your point around kind of the things that ETH had and didn't have, you're right. EIP 1559, the EIP to burn ETH didn't exist. ETH's issuance schedule and stuff around that, like that wasn't even a thought in even 2017, right? People, when Ethereum was first created, it was basically, we're just going to have this issuance. We're going to pay out this much, per block, and it's going to be like this forever, right? There was no thought around it really. And this is what happened in 2018 and stuff. We solidified a narrative around the issuance, and we came up with, minimum viable issuance or necessary issuance, where we would have low perpetual issuance over time. And then we would have fee burning as well, so that eventually we can get to net negative issuance and secure the protocol at the same time. And it's important to realize as well that staking was still kind of like a pipe dream in 17, 18. No one knew when it was going to come. And there was some like big pivots that happened around the ETH2 roadmap at the time as well. So yeah, for those who weren't around and weren't in the weeds for all of 2018 and 2019, let me tell you, it was a very different, very unsure time period in Ethereum.
It was really a goddamn slog.
It was a slog, man. Like, especially 2019, if you look at the ETH price, it basically ended the year like up like 2%, where Bitcoin ended it up like, I think 2 times, almost 3 times off the bear market lows. So yeah, 2019 for me was the hardest year, because ETH price to me is a reflection of how successful Ethereum is as a platform, and whether for better or worse, that's how most people view it. And then putting out all this content and like seeing the ETH prices do nothing, and then people not get excited about it, it was kind of disheartening. And I'll be honest, it was really hard to stick through it. But I obviously am very passionate about Ethereum, and so are you and a few of the other people we know, and that people would know of. But yeah, 2020 is just so different. Like even DeFi wasn't a thing 2017, wasn't really a thing in 2018. We had some things popping up here and there, right? Like, Uniswap and MakerDAO and things, but it was still a toy. No one was taking it seriously. No one thought it was going to overtake centralized exchanges and things like that. The only people who thought that were like the very, very hardcore Ethereans, like, like us. And it's very hard to beat a drum when there's no one else kind of like dancing with you, basically. But we got to 2020 and it's been a lot brighter, right? It's been a much better year for Ethereum. I think it's been best year in Ethereum's history, right? We had the DeFi explosion. ETH finally, woke up and is now back to a really great price. We had ETH2 launch, 2 days ago. Well, the first phase of ETH2 launch. We have so many things now that, for me, there were parts in 2019 where I was just like, am I actually, right here to dedicate so much time to Ethereum? Whereas in 2020, I'm now basically like, I know Ethereum's going to be this huge thing for the world. I have zero doubts. It's going to succeed. And, I'm more excited about it than ever.
Yeah. Any Ethereum that is still in the Ethereum community after the 2018, 2019 bear market survived just like an onslaught, 2 years of an onslaught of just like attacks on the narrative and gaslighting from Bitcoiners. And like I'll be honest, like I had this POV crypto podcast with my co-host Christian. There were definitely times where I'm like, fuck, do I capitulate? Like, but like the answer was no. And like, here we are today, like almost everything that we stated like in 2018 and 2019, like has eventually like proven out in some way, shape or form to be completely real. And like, I only expect that to continue and to be further than that. Right. And like, you're totally right about the ETH price. Like it's crazy to think like it's 2020 and like, dude, the ETH price used to be like $95 in the depths of March, like $95 to like where it is now, like a $600. And like all it takes is like the ETH price to like, you know, add on 50%, 100%, 150%. And all of a sudden everything's like legitimate again. Right. And so, you know, the people that were able to front run that opportunity and get their message out the door before the price rose is now able to say like, told you so, like got it right.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's just really funny when I think back on it, because you're gonna have lots of people coming in, lots of new people, and they're gonna think that Ethereum was always gonna be this sure thing, right?
Right.
And I'm glad that they get to think that. I'm glad that they don't have to go
Those
through
lucky
what
bastards.
yeah, what we went through. But you know, being an early adopter comes with rewards, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I shouldn't be complaining too much. Sticking around has been very nice. But you know, not just from like I guess like a financial perspective, but also from like a personal growth perspective, right? I feel more fulfilled with my life than I ever have, and that's
Right.
because I stuck around and found something that I was passionate about. So, but yeah, in general, I'm glad that we now have this ship on course. You know, it's this giant thing, and I don't see anything to be really bearish or negative about going forward for Ethereum. You know,
Right.
the fact that, I mean, people say, oh, the beacon chain launching is whatever, it doesn't really do much. I mean, it's a shelling point, right? It's a signal that we actually launched, you know, the first phase of ETH2, and ETH2 is gonna happen, right? It's not like it's a dream anymore. It's not like we're just doing test nets. It's actually live on mainnet. $500 million almost of value is securing it. You know, it's happening. So I mean, as I said, I have never been more excited about Ethereum as I am today.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And like the 2018, 2019 bear market was characterized as like trying to keep our heads above water, right? Because like, you know, at some point like job security was an issue, right? Like you didn't know if the startup or the company that you were working for was going to like call it quits in the next couple months. And so like the fact that you are now able to like go full time on the Daily Gwei is a signal of the strength and the health in the beliefs in strength and health of the Ethereum economy, right? Because like if you were struggling to keep your head above water, you wouldn't be going off on your own venture doing Ethereum media. And so it's both a signal to strength of the Ethereum economy and also your commitment to Ethereum that you're doing this whole Daily Gwei thing.
Yeah, I mean, Ethereum's given me a lot over the years, and I've tried to give back as much as I can. And the Daily Gwei is just another piece of that, just giving back more and more, making sure that I don't feel like I owe a debt to Ethereum, so to speak, but I feel like I owe it to the community and to Ethereum to spread what I know and my knowledge, and to help more people come on board with this kind of amazing thing we have here.
Yeah, it's not a debt, but it's definitely a responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Anthony, if people want to subscribe to the Daily Gwei newsletter or go to the Daily Gwei YouTube, where should they go?
Yeah, so the newsletter is at thedailygwei.substack.com. The YouTube, you can just type in the Daily Gwei on the search bar and it'll come up there. And then, yeah, you'll be able to find all the relevant links there. As I said, the daily newsletter goes out every weekday. The YouTube channel, I do the same thing with the refuel episodes, which go out every weekday. And then I'll be having like more kind of like pointed educational videos as time goes on as well. Be sure to, I guess, join the Discord if you want to ask any specific questions, because I'm on there and you can just tag me and I'll answer your questions, or one of the community members will as well.
Fantastic. And all of those links will also be in the YouTube show notes as well. Anthony, thanks for coming on and introducing yourself to the nation. As if they didn't know who you were.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some people might not, it's great because Bankless is getting like a great audience, I think, outside of the Ethereum ecosystem right now. Right. So, yeah, it's great to see, but yeah, thanks for having me on. I hope, all of the watchers and listeners of this go and subscribe to the Daily Gwei. I hope to see you guys on there.
Cheers.